Good evening, everyone. This is Jason Grant speaking to you again live. Today we have a different type of presentation, which is a little bit more practical and going to be looking at reviewing a website from one of our members in the Facebook group, Talented Mr. Salas, Frank Salas. I'm going to wait for a couple of people to join before I start talking about this, and I also trust that Mr. Salas is going to join and ask questions. So let's see who joins. Please say hello. I can't see on this portrait view, I can't see who's joined, so please say hello with your comment or questions if you have up front. I'm going to be doing an expert review of this website from Frank Salas. It's his personal website, but his personal website is his business. He is his own business. So, hi Tim. I hope you have questions to ask in this session. I'm doing it a little bit of like with a handheld. There he is, Frank Salas, Mr. Frank Salas. Welcome, welcome. So I've got your site lined up here on my laptop, and I've also got it on a tablet here. Now I can't show it on my mobile because I'm doing the Facebook Live from the mobile. But I think the general gist of this session will be good enough to exemplify what sort of really is important here from both desktop and tablet. So I know your probably mobile is there you go. You've never seen it on a tablet. This is what it looks like, and it's my iPad 2. So this is the rendering that we've got there. It's always interesting to see sites on mobile, desktop, and tablet, both portrait and landscape. Obviously, I can do this, and usually the landscape view renders a site in kind of a desktop-like rendering. So I should see, like for example, this section there. I should be able to see that on my laptop. So it's usually one for one. It's just that on the tablet landscape view is just slightly smaller scale, right? But same. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to use the tablet this way because your target audience will be using the tablet in the portrait mode, either reading or browsing that way on somewhere on the beach, like this guy sitting there and just kind of attracting brands and sponsors with legendary media kit of yours ready to cash in. So okay, so I'm going to start. I haven't really written a proper structure for this, so I'm just going to do it off the dome. But the beauty of this is that I trust, Frank, you're going to ask specific questions, and you already have asked specific questions about how to design the content for your site. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of roll it up a little bit in terms of to actually design the content for your site. We got to, as UX designers and designers in general, we got to understand what is it that you are trying to achieve here with this site. What is the purpose of the site? Who is your audience? And how you can talk to that audience, not just in terms of face-to-face, but in terms of the online, which is this medium. Now, I speak a lot about the idea that if we can close a deal or win some business face-to-face, that's beautiful. But doing the same online is so Frank is saying purpose is to educate people on what it is that I do. Okay, so to achieve the same effect of closing business like we do in face to face. To achieve that online, it's a totally different medium, and obviously the difference between a Periscope live stream and a Facebook live stream is different in nature to a website, which is a little bit more static. Even though your website, I mean, in your case, your website is a static website, so you don't update this much. It's just you've written that, and it kind of, for most part, it just sits like that. It's brochureware. So a static website like this doesn't sort of sing and dance. So one of the first things that strikes me on this site, and when I do expert reviews, I'm coming at if you were my client, I would be coming to this with basically a fresh pair of eyes, not knowing much necessarily about who your audience is and what they want. I'm just thinking about them as humans, general people that people always prefer to see something with coherence and structure and consistency and good branding and quality content. And content, yes, words and pictures are content, but the look and feel is also content to some extent, because the way I, as a human being, the way I perceive this is important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this in the sense of kind of strategic positioning of this site. So who are the people and what's the purpose? And you're saying the purpose is to educate the people that you're serving on what it is that you do. Okay, so I would question that as an advisor or a consultant. I would question whether that's the right purpose to have, because what you do is sort of passive thing. Okay, what comes to my mind is that what you do is a passive thing. So let's say you do social media and you do streaming, etc., etc. That's all great, but what is in it for me as a potential customer of yours? How do I buy you? Okay, how do I buy you? And so one of the first things that comes to this to me, like that I see here, or actually for that matter I don't see, is a clear call to action. So this site, I've come onto this with my desktop or my mobile. There is no call to action here other than join the talent tribe, which is sitting up there, and you can't sort of see it, but this call to action sitting up here at the top, although it's relatively good wording there, it's kind of sitting too far up. Then at the bottom I've got growth hack me, which is somewhat confusing. I'm not sure what that's going to do. If I click on that, that gives me this thing: growth hacking party, more followers, more eyeballs. Now, if you say that the purpose of the site is to educate people on what it is that you do, I'm not sure how this plays into that, right? So I think that the purpose that you sort of outlined there is not correct, really, because really what the purpose of this is to effectively drive more conversions, right? The purpose of the site is to get more people to join your tribe, as you say. And so really that join the tribe needs to be a consistent thing in your sort of calls to action. So if I then scroll down on this, there's a kind of thing of these brands here that you've listed, although they are good and whatever. Can I click on them? It seems to be I can click on them, but I can't. That nothing happens. If I click on them, so there's nothing there. But I guess what you mean by these brands is that you've been featured in these publications. Now, there's a huge difference between Huffington Post and this Digital Marketer or Hello Beautiful. I'm not sure what Hello Beautiful is, or this KSCS and so on. But either way, all these brands here being listed, I'm not really sure what they are, other than brands of major sort of publication houses, right? So that needs to be clarified and leveraged in terms of outlining what it is, and you know, click through. So if I could click on this, and if you've been featured in Huffington Post, which I know you have, you know, you need to have the click through to that so that people can find out that you're, you know, a legitimate person that, you know, has been written about, etc. Now the other thing, more important on the site, is that, like, if the purpose of the site is to educate people what it is that you do, then, you know, social media, full stop, productivity, full stop, they're just statements, general statements of, it's like saying doors and plants. What about social media and productivity? What about it? So the way the human mind perceives these two statements is very passive. Okay, social media is like everything's social nowadays, and productivity, it's like, okay, productivity, what about it? Okay, people want to be productive, I suppose, but productivity in itself is like some sort of management term that you hear in offices. It's like, let's increase productivity in here, and everyone just goes like, oh, shut the hell up, I'm not interested. So these two terms are not outlining what it is that you do, right? Not immediately, if I'm skimming through. The important thing to marry up here is in the customer life cycle. In the customer life cycle, people go through these 8 stages, which is awareness, research, comparison, selection, purchase, experience, loyalty, and advocacy. So the people that are coming to your site have already somehow been made aware of who you are, or they are coming to your site not most likely not off the back of some random stumble upon. They're not stumbling into your site randomly. They've somehow been made aware of who you are already. So really, they would be they'll be in the research phase of finding out more about you. So the reason why this is important is because in the awareness stage, they would have already probably read a tweet or a Facebook post or something like that about who you are, what you do. So they're kind of probably already aware that you do social media and that kind of stuff. But then when they go into your website to research, they need to get then like deeper insight into who you are. And if that sort of first off the bat kind of welcome statement that talks about you is social media and productivity, then the person that's gone from like, oh my god, Frank Salas is this guy that someone described as really amazing, blah blah blah, and then I land onto the site and I read social media productivity, it's like, okay, it's slightly deflated here in terms of my experience. The other stuff here that sort of catches my eye is the fact that you've listed all these social media icons up here. I understand why they're there, because you're wanting people to sort of follow you on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and so on, Instagram and so forth. But the question is so the purpose of the site, and if you said the purpose of the site is to inform people about what you do, then these icons up here, all they're doing is becoming like, they're basically the visual clutter for communicating your message, okay? And so if I look at the tablet here, they're even more of a visual clutter. So the eye is drawn to these icons here a lot versus this statement, which we already established that is quite sort of not really serving any real purpose, because social media and productivity is just generic statements of stuff. So immediately, and the other thing that these icons do is they take away focus from the actual main navigation. So here it's like actually this is the content and the links and further important stuff from the site and what you actually do. But I'm sort of I can't even really see that off the back of all these icons here. Now usually people would expect the icons and the social media to be featured in the footer, which lo and behold it is in a kind of standard way and so on. So if they really want to get to you on social media and find you, they'll do that. But up here, if someone's come from a social media source and so on, then the first focus shouldn't be this. This is not the content that they are going to be looking for on your site as an immediate focus. So I'd strongly suggest removing this from here and actually making this navigation a little bit more prominent and easier to access. Okay, and again, like on the tablet, which is probably a quite high usage device, and you can check this on your stats and so on from Google Analytics, but you'll see that these links need to be just basically make them as easy to use as possible, like really prodigal, easy links. Okay, and don't be scared to can stretch them across the whole width of the tablet here. So that just looks like clutter. Now, if I look at a picture of you, you're like a very well presented guy. You're very clean. Okay, the cigar is not kind of like, look, hey, I like an occasional cigar, but I know you like smoke it a little bit more often than I do. But you're very clean and well presented. And then I look at this navigation. It's like, that's not really talented, Mr. Salas. It's not really. It's like the subconscious picks up on this, and it's like, I'm not really. It seems a little bit sort of desperate, it's a little bit desperate kind of move. Okay, rather than presenting a very clean, well presented sort of look and sort of style, right? And also, like, simplicity is very powerful. Simplicity is very powerful, and this isn't simple. Okay, so what I do like on the site is the use of color blue here is good, because I guess I guess you'd be attracting a lot of males, okay, to this whole brand of yours, okay, and you're certainly very sort of alpha kind of guy, right? So we're like smoking cigar and all that kind of stuff. So if you're attracting a lot of males, that blue is kind of quite male color, and it instills trust and all that kind of stuff. Is kind of quite serious also in nature. So you'll see a lot of banks use blue, to instill trust and communicate trust. So off the back of seeing this top bit of the site, I'm expecting that kind of quite serious and alpha male type tone, okay, tone and communication and sort of brand quality, okay. So then as I scroll down, so here I have quite a sort of dense, rich look and feel, okay, and sort of general sort of experience. This is like, although I'm not keen on the sort of background blue and so on, this is quite prominent and dominant here. But let's say that's fine. The picture is nice and all that stuff, and that's kind of quite rich. And then I go into what is much more sort of empty experience here, where it's not sort of delineated as to who these people are. I'm guessing, having to, as a human being, I'm having to make a sort of slight mental leap to know that this guy is someone who you've worked with, and he is, okay, he's saying Frank helped me set my business on autopilot. I can now focus on creating content and growing my business while my busy work gets handled. That's cool. And then, so what jumped at me was this statement here: fire yourself, promote yourself to CEO. This is somewhat like, sounds like a cognitive dissonance statement. It's like it's two opposite things, or I'm not sure like what it really means, okay. But either way, this kind of use of capital letters is typically seen as kind of quite sort of shouty, and sort of when you're typing, and so I would generally recommend avoiding use of capital letters. It's also harder to read capital letters. I know some people prefer to see them, for like design purposes. They kind of look different, they look probably nicer and so on. But generally, capital letters are harder to read, and also they can come across as shouting, okay, and sort of again, sort of sign of some sort of desperation. On the side of sort of using these icons and so on, again, I see where you're coming from in terms of using that, but the nature of using the icons is kind of typically seen as kind of like probably a teenage thing to do and so on. Also, these icons don't really scale that well, and yes, they can look quite old school. So I'd say like use them sort of with caution. What happens here is that you've gone from this kind of like business alpha male kind of look and feel, and quite relatively still clean, to this sort of quite potentially jokey, playful, tone, so to speak, right? And then so you've gone from also like having a testimonial from somebody who seems like a single person company, right, to a guy who is a very sort of CEO professional kind of guy. Now you can that's perfectly cool to be working with solopreneurs and then sort of corporate kind of big hitters, but again, it feels like this is mixing audiences somewhat, because your sort of audiences, I would guess that Fortune 100 executive is quite different to a solopreneur, personal trainer, or a fitness trainer, in terms of what they want and need, and both in terms of their branding and so on. Here, where you've got the call to action, so this is the first place where I see a call to action. So here, it's like I've scrolled quite a lot down, and then you get click here to growth hack your productivity. First of all, click here is not necessary. This is the stuff that like you should never ever use click here. But also, most importantly, click here is a bad call to action, because it doesn't really tell me what is going to happen. The call to action writing needs to suggest what is going to happen. So instead of saying click here to growth hack your productivity, you can just say grow your productivity, or improve your productivity, or super boost your productivity. Okay. So that's kind of very, very important and powerful thing for you to generally remember and know, that calls to action start with a describing verb that is powerful. So things like buy now, log in, register, join, all these kind of things are good, sort of good classic calls to action. So click here to growth hack your productivity. It's just not even like proper English. It's like you don't sort of growth hack things. So just like grow your productivity or super boost your productivity. Use some sort of power words there that are actually meaningful. This does not read proper, and it's first time I see a call to action. So here I've gone, like, my cognitive faculties have given me the following. I've missed this join the tribe on top. This is a mess that I've gone like, okay, I'm not going to do that now because I'm not interested. Social media productivity, I don't know what that is. He's a good looking guy, it looks a bit gangster, but that's cool, that's intriguing. But there's nothing for me here to action. I can see that he's good looking and he's got like nice red socks. And then here it's like these lines here, by the way, these lines are too long. Okay, this is too long for the human eye to read. So when I go, my passion is growing. My passion is growing businesses. My primary marketing method has been social media. So it's very hard for the eye to follow this on desktop, right? So you're typically, in usability testing, would say these lines need to be limited to about 800 pixels in width. Okay, so you can do that by increasing the size of the font or decreasing the width of this thing here. Either way, this is quite sort of lengthy and hidden piece of content here, which actually really talks about the purpose that you have, which is so the purpose for this site, which is to tell people what is it that you do. But it says, my passion is growing businesses. My primary marketing method has been social media. Well, both of these statements here, it's like it's not what you do, it's actually sort of who you are, right? So, and then you go on to say, as business grows, so do operations. I love outsourcing, delegating, blah, blah, blah. You basically lost me there. There's not a single statement there that says, I help you do blah, blah, blah. End of story, right? Where is that statement? It's not anywhere up here, okay? And then so here, these people are starting to talk about what you've done. So Frank helped me set business on autopilot. That's great. Why didn't you just say that up here? I will set your business on autopilot now. Boom. Okay. So I am having to, as a user, I'm having to hunt for that power statement, for that hook. You're missing that hook on the website. You're missing the hook, and usually hook is followed by a call to action. So I will help you. I'll help you put your business on autopilot right now. Call to action. Find out how, or sign up to get more, right? That's kind of the classic thing. Now if you really want to power drive that kind of focus, and you can take a picture of yourself, and you seem to have like good sort of photographers, that's like you have like one of those paparazzi people that follows you everywhere. So you take a picture of yourself that's pointing a finger towards something, and that's where you need to, or look towards this area, and that's where you need to sort of put your call to action needs to be on this side. Your call to action needs to be where your face is. Okay, so you need to have a picture of yourself here looking towards this area or pointing towards this area, and then some sort of like either bubble or text needs to come here or here, because the human eye scans a site from left to right. So it's like the decision making process is like this. They look here first, then they sort of, as they go along, they make a decision whether something is worth actioning, and then right here they look to press for action. Okay, so your statement of like, I will put your business on autopilot right now needs to be somewhere here with you looking towards this area, and then a call to action here saying join to find out, or something like join now. And so the button needs to say something like join now, and then supporting text underneath that button should say to get the insights, or to get the information, or something like that. Okay, you basically off the back of it. So look where your growth hack me thing sits here. Basically the human eye doesn't even see this area here. This is completely off the charts in terms of visibility, and also the way it's been kind of designed here is a very sort of invisible thing. But also it's not proper English. So growth hack me is not it's not proper English. So that's just broken there. And also it's just like a very, very weird way to sort of handle these sort of things, right? And so this basically what I've just told you is like this whole thing is broken. Okay, this whole thing is broken. Here also on the call to action here where it says join the talent tribe. Okay, so let's say that's well worded call to action, even though it isn't really. I know. Sorry, I'm being direct here, so don't get too upset. But it's direct action, right? So this join the talent tribe let's say it's sort of quite a nice call to action. But what's missing there is why. Like, why should I join the talent tribe? Why? And it's like, okay, join the talent tribe. Like, why? Why should I do this? Like, so describe that. So as I scroll down, then there's kind of like, build your online empire through legendary joint ventures, attract brands and sponsors with legendary media kit. It's like there is sort of like general inconsistency with imagery on this site, right? So you set out a very, very, very high standard here with this opening picture, which is like kind of Hollywood production, very, very cool, very, very cool. And this is okay. This is now getting sort of inconsistent. And then these pictures are like, where are the people? It's like this is like some sort of ghost walking. And like this person is like turned their back towards the viewer, right? So I'm viewing this site from here, like seeing the back of the person, and it's like, what is this picture actually communicating? It says attract brands and sponsors with legendary media kit, and there's a guy turned his back, to me. So subliminal messaging there is just like, I'm not interested, right? This guy is not interested. I don't know what this picture is communicating. Then here it's again like, are we talking here? It's like, are we talking here? What is this? Is this another testimonial, right? And why is that testimonial here, right? I'm not sure. So there's a general kind of thing around information architecture that your testimonials ought to all be in the same area, right? Rather than creating this sort of disjointed feel, right? But actually, one of the biggest things, because look, you're a streaming kind of guy, and you are a video sort of person, right? You're a guy who will quite happily jump and tell the story about how you're on the beach in Mexico and so on. Great. Why don't you just do that? Why don't you just put that little video up here? Put a little video of 30 seconds of you talking exactly who you are, what you do. Just do that, and have that change. Like, do 100 of those videos and have it change every day, because show variety, show all sorts of stuff like that, and have them all on the site, right? So and then so what happens to me as I'm browsing this is I've kind of lost interest, because this is kind of inconsistent. Consistency is a big thing in design. It's like inconsistent in terms of the feel and the kind of tone of look and feel and the language, right? And so here, this sort of call to action is like, I want to growth hack my biz, own my time, run my biz on autopilot. It's like there's like a lot of different sort of statements here that are potentially somewhat in line, but actually not necessarily, and so on. And then there's like, check out my podcast. La, la, la. So it's like the language overall, the language is somewhat inconsistent and not punchy enough, right? So one of the things I could show you here is this statement here that you've got. I serve those with talent by transforming them into thought leaders. I show you how to get paid speaking gigs, more eyeballs of your content, how to create digital products, and bring my influencer friends to share their behind. Such a long statement, okay? This is very hard to read language. What you want to do is create much more of a kind of snappy statements, right? Snappy statements. And, these icons here, they, so look, these icons, I see what you're trying to communicate with this, right? You're trying to communicate a little bit more sort of casual tone, and more kind of this sort of social media kind of compatibility, right, and so on. But then if I go up here and I go like, this guy here, is he really going to be using these icons? And also, how do these icons look, right? So these icons are very like low resolution, okay? How do they look in conjunction with this high resolution, beautiful Frank, the guy from Hollywood? They don't really go together. There's a jarring there of this kind of high fidelity guy in perfect, designer luxury suit with expensive cigar, standing in a very sort of aspirational area, and then some sort of low quality icons there. It doesn't go together, right? And then this footer also looks like it's sort of unfinished, right? But actually, what it contains is probably some of the most valuable content on the site in terms of this front page, which is free growth hacks. Okay, fine, and then it says, "Are you ready to become a thought leader?" It's like, okay, now I'm thinking like this is cool. Yes, of course I'm ready to become a thought leader, right? So it's like this, "Are you ready to become a thought leader?" ought to be the top statement there. It's like, I will make you a thought leader right now, right? Or something along those lines. Why? Because the actual product that you're selling, and the purpose of this site isn't really to communicate with people what is it that you do. The purpose is to get them to sign up to one of your products, right? One of your offerings, right? And so the reason why people will do that is because there is something in it for them, okay? And so what is it? What is in it for me off the back of your site? You need to communicate that up front. So what is your product? The product is the outcome that your clients are going to get from you. So if I sign up, you can promise me social media influencer status or ability to influence on social media, that kind of stuff, gain more followers, grow your business, that kind of stuff. That's the outcome, that's your product. And then you sort of need to make that promise to people and call them to invite them to either join the tribe, which isn't kind of like what they want to do. It's like, why would I join your tribe? Why would I join your tribe? It's like, find out how. Coincidentally, the way find out how is to join your tribe and then follow maybe some of the Facebook lives or stuff like that. Okay? But join the tribe is something that you are interested in them doing, but they're not interested in doing. Okay? So you got to talk in terms of their benefits, and then going off the back of the benefits, it's like, where are the benefits of this? Okay, you said like this guy said you helped him with that, this guy said that, but I don't actually know what the benefits are. Where it's like, here this is somewhat worded as benefits, but like build your online empire through legendary joint ventures. It's like attract brands and sponsors with legendary media kit. It's like, but it's like, are those really the benefits? Have you really drilled this down? So if I click into this, build your online empire through legendary. So through here, this word through is not properly spelt. This is not how you spell through. This is like a ghetto spelling of through. So that catches the eye, right? Through is spelt different way. And so then this here is very wordy. This page is just pure words. Like nobody's ever going to read this. Nobody's ever going to read this. Nobody's ever going to read this online unless they're really, really, really interested. So you need to somehow break this down into smaller chunks of content that has subtitles, that has some pull. So imagine, instead of this big article like this, which just looks, even when I look at it and scan through it, it just looks like, oh, it's too much to read, I'm gonna sort of like read that later. You need to think of every paragraph as a mini product, right, to kind of break it into valuable conclusive statements that lead naturally onto the next thing and next thing and next thing. So this just needs real sort of design from the ground up. If I look into another one, let's see, another piece. Again, it's, you know, starts off, opens up with very high quality Hollywood level, cool, you know, branding and feel, right? So I'm like, wow, this is going to be cool to read. And then I go into what looks like old school typewriter kind of thing. Doesn't match up. It's not designed in a consistent way, in a way that kind of communicates to me that I'm going to get consistency from you. Okay? And so that's the kind of subconscious cognitive conclusion, you know, that like I would, as a sort of expert reviewer of the site, I would sort of expect the typical user to get out of this experience. This is beautiful, you know, this is beautiful. There's like visual design things that, you know, some of the people viewing on this live stream are like visual designers. You know, they kind of cringe at some of the things that you've done here, but you know, in my experience, that's not kind of like a make or break. What is make or break is that this, like a regular human user can see a discrepancy here between the beautiful design of this thing and the complete opposite of this kind of content area here. They will know subconsciously, they'll pick up that this is inconsistent, and they pick up on the inconsistency and the lack of actual real sort of call to action. This whole bit.ly links and so on is like, there's no call to action here really. There's no button, you know, that I'm invited to press, you know. So this is a huge omission from your site, you know, that you don't have a call to action for the human to sort of really kind of act upon this in these kind of individual pages, right? The blog pages. And then so the other thing that you contributed here for me to look at is the kind of this thing here, and you know, it's like big scrolly, you know, long page that again kind of communicates in a very different style to kind of what your personal brand is like. Okay, and then, you know, I have it's like there's a lot to read through here, but there's no calls to action anywhere, you know, until I scroll all the way down to somewhere here there is call to action that says I'm ready to become a thought leader, right? And, you know, I want those early bird offers and so on. But like, you know, somehow this might be doing well somehow, but I would very much doubt it. I'd love to see your like you know, Google Analytics stats of this, but yeah, there's a lot to read there, and it's very kind of, you know, I'm not sure what I know what you're trying to do here in terms of like making it fun and interesting and so on, but I would have a call to action off the back of this. Let's see what this is about. I haven't watched this video yet.
Howdy, what's up? This is Frank Salas, better known as the talented Mr. Salas. If you're watching this video, you are considering being a case study and a beta tester for my final beta of my flagship program, the Talent School. The Talent School is my flagship program that I'm going to spend all of 2017 promoting. It's going to show you how to make money online from A to Z.
So here I've kind of like already a little bit lost interest, because you just said to me the Talent School is your flagship program, and then you said again Talent School is your flagship program. I know you've sort of recorded this as a live stream, but this is an 8-minute video. You need to really seriously you know, get this down to 30 seconds, you know, with a strong call to action straight off the bat, right? And this kind of stuff should be upfront on your site up here, but your branding probably ought to be consistent with how you are branded, how you've branded yourself elsewhere. So if you're always a kind of guy that wears suits and so on, you should probably do that in a suit here, or mix your brand up so that you've got suits and kind of casual wear. So get your get your paparazzi person, right, to shoot some nice photos of you also on the beach chilling out, which I don't see of you. Like, you know, so here it's like this is still your work mode, right? but this is like, even if you're working here, this is the kind of work that I would like to be doing, right? I'd love to be working from the beach, you know, and if that's what you're looking to sell to people as an aspiration, you know, then get your paparazzi to shoot your, like, some nice photos of you just wearing this kind of beach clothing, right? And having that kind of aspirational life on the beach, and so to marry that up, so when people see this video, they don't go like, oh my god, how did this kind of well-dressed kind of gangster guy go from this to this, right? Which kind of seems inconsistent, right? Because I wouldn't have expected him to do that. Would have expected him to be in the city hustling, you know, and like in some sort of corporate environment. So I hope this has been of value to you in terms of the site assessment, and sort of what I see without really fully knowing, you know, details. Lena's saying that was some serious scrollage. Yeah, and so I love your pictures, man. I love your pictures. They're beautiful. They're very well done. You know, you're the very like photogenic guy and so on. But like when I see this, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking to see the like corporate closer kind of styling down here as well. But then I see a lot of kind of quite jokey, you know, kind of content, right? And it's like this does not communicate to me that I'm gonna make money, right? It just communicates that I'm like a social media addict, right? So then if I go to like Grant Cardone as an example of a site that kind of comes to my mind, right, as a kind of a brand that might be sort of correlated or relevant to what you're doing, and it's also his personal site, you know, you'll see like you see how he's got much more, and you know, this is terrible thing where they go like with these like overlays, you know, it's like I haven't even got to the site, but you know, I've already got some sort of overlay here that's kind of forcing me to get a deal, you know, dealer to get a deal, and it's like I don't want no deal, I don't even know what I'm looking at yet. So but you know, there's much more consistency, and everywhere you see him in pictures he's very kind of consistently, you know, branded and clothed as a kind of serious sort of entrepreneur, kind of big hitter, you know, and so on, at least on the kind of like homepage, right? And so that's something, for example, for you to probably look to somewhat emulate in terms of the feel overall. um, and you know, he's got a lot of things that he's put up for like offer. So one of the things that I look at this and go like, there's so many things. I'm not sure like what's really for me here. There's too many things. But yeah, so I hope this has been of value to you. What the issues, in my view, are with your site, and you know, none of it is rocket science to fix up, but the issues there are of quite radical level of mistake making, let's say, in site design terms, and so there's work to be done, and you know, we can look into more details of this, but this has been kind of like a taster session of a sort, right, to just give you an idea as to why, you know, a designer mindset, especially for someone who's been doing this for like years and years, you know, can quickly pick up on this even without testing with people. If I was to take this to user testing and show it to people, you'd get very much this kind of overarching feedback from regular humans that are your target audience. So the value of expert review like this is to say, well, we don't have time and money to be looking for target audiences, you know, to test with. Let's just get one person who's going to go through this and like within an hour and a half pick up on these like core mistakes, you know, that can be and should be fixed before you actually take it into more detailed user testing to actually pick up on some of the nuances and work out with people how you can really make this stuff pop and stand out. Yeah, so yeah, Frank is asking, can you do this for anything? Apps, programs, flyers, retail boxes? Yeah, exactly, and people do this regularly um, uh, for review, and it all goes off the back of cognitive mechanics, right, in which the human brain works, right? So humans want something that's consistent, well designed, on point, right? That kind of has a flow to it. It's easy to use. All these kind of universal guidelines of design are applicable to absolutely everything, and more of that you can inject into your proposition and your products and your offering and your flyers and everything that people interact with. More of that best practice design you can apply, the more you're going to get people through the funnel, but also off the back of the funnel get people to recommend that, because guess what, people are really happy to recommend stuff that is consistent, well constructed, well architected, on point, and just sort of pierces through, right? But that doesn't happen just by sort of chucking things on the page. It really requires that design and thinking about what is it that the target audience that you're looking to reach really requires. And so, for example, for language, you want to get into the words that are really valuable and sort of trigger words for people to vibe with and respond to. Lena's saying there was some content on the other page which could fit in the about page. I was seeing content that could be grouped, structured into pages that could be followed with a clear navigation. And so I can't really read the full comment here, but yeah, so it's like the notion of information architecture is to group like-minded content into areas where users can quite sort of easily sort of scan through all that stuff. So if you've got your products and offerings, they need to be in one group, and your kind of about you stuff needs to be in one area. If the homepage is so let's say 4 sections, the top section is like, this is what you do and what you're about, kind of intro. Then so going back, you can actually, this is one of the things that I've done in the past, so go back to of how users um, go. This is like customer lifecycle. So if someone's in the awareness stage, okay, so let's say they don't know anything about you, you could structure a web page and architect a web page in this way. You could have awareness related content, which is like a top line of Frank Salas helps you put your business on autopilot. It's like, okay, now I'm aware of what he does. Cool, tell me more. Then it's like the research phase is like going into depth of who you are, what you've achieved, and so on. You might then they go into comparison, like, okay, but why would they use him instead of someone else? Then you have some content around that. Then he said, like, okay, help them make that selection. You go like, if you make that selection right now, I promise you this, I promise you that, or like, don't lose out because it's only like 60 more seconds before you click this button and it's going to self-destruct. Then enable them to easily purchase and sign up and register, join your tribe, whatever it is. The experience has to follow up with the promises that you made up here very quickly and very high quality. And then build the loyalty and get them to become advocates. Now, people who come to your page, if you said like, hey, I've got some affiliate scheme, they could scroll down to find that like affiliate scheme and join that up to become advocates, right? And so that's one way of structuring the content on your page, based on people people who don't know anything about you. They need to have that little bit of awareness thing, because they're not going to scroll through the page to find out all this advocacy, because they have no idea whether they should promote you or not. They don't know anything about you. But those who are already loyal advocates, they'll scroll through any page, right, to go down to advocacy bit about affiliation and sign up to that because they want to make money for themselves, etc. Lena's saying, from a branding perspective, typography and color could be more consistent, and that includes everything on the page, even the button. Yeah, different shades of blue being used for icons and so. So Lena's a visual designer with psychology background, so she knows exactly how these kind of psychological traits of human cognition work in favor or against you in terms of converting things from I don't know anything to yes, I'm loving this product. Frank, please ask me any more questions before I start wrapping this up. It's kind of the end of my session. Please feel free to obviously join, link up with Lena as well, and chat to her some more about visual aesthetics and so on. So Frank is saying his brain is fried. Yeah, so look, like for example, Lena and I would spend like endless time during the day looking at these things, and we know kind of what sort of patterns of interaction convert and work well, right? So there's a science to it. It goes through a lot of kind of distilling, right, to make things work in a way that kind of end user human expects them. So this is the value of having designers on your team, and also the value of developing a design thinking mindset for yourself, because that is how you get more conversions, that's how you improve business, that's how you drive growth. Okay, and that's what we're talking about here all the time. So thank you very much, Frank, for submitting your case study. This is not intended to in any way kind of downplay what you're doing or anything like that. It's to help you improve your offer. I love your pictures. I wish I had them myself like that. And if you can help me with that, I'd love that. Give me tips and sort of recommend photographers that you might have in your network. That would be really cool. And please feel free, everyone else, feel free to reach out to us on uxcoach.me, and my personal website is jasongrant.in. You might want to see my website, Frank. Actually, let's talk about this, and I might as well, since I'm on this case, I'll cross compare with my site and where I'm making mistakes as well, because hey, look, we're also so what I've done with my website is I've sort of explained sort of what I do, but you might say this is quite weak in terms of the explanation, and certainly I don't have a call to action, because the purpose of my website is to more kind of introduce to people like really who I am, as opposed to kind of sell products off the back of it. So on my like about page, I have all this kind of characteristics of who I am and what makes me who I am. But also because my site is jasongrant.in, I have this structure where it's like Jason Grant in UX. Okay, so I have also Jason Grant in family, and Jason Grant in music. These are kind of the areas that I'm interested in. But Jason Grant in UX, which is user experience design, I sort of describe myself as saying, this is who I am in UX, and then I have sort of UX portfolio there and so on. This is kind of early stage for me still, and like in terms of cycling, it shows me as like doing cycling charity rides and describing that. There's more content I'm going to be producing for this, but this is the approach that I've taken. Now notice how I've sort of my social media handles up here are rolled up into this kind of drop down, but at the bottom of the site they're very easily accessible, right? And for the power tip, I give you an ability to come up with a Latin one-liner, right? Strapline. In my case, it's in omnia excellentia faciam, which stands for excellence in everything I do. Yeah, there you go. That's that. And my site's still got some way to go to get it like the way I really like. Because look, some of these things are actually work to do. You have to both produce the content and put that effort into designing it and making it really consistent and so on. But you know, this is why most people don't have their own websites and they don't comply with sort of, you know, design standards, because it is work to put into practice, but that work pays off down the line because it drives conversions, right? It grows business. It has that positive impact. So thanks very much, guys, for participating and asking questions, and I hope the video wasn't too wobbly and it was useful enough about the points that I made. Thanks, Frank, for participating, and you know, keep in touch as usual. Please connect up and, you know, share your expertises. All right, all the best. Bye bye.